getting down that runway. Remember it driving, it was built up with ice, right? It was freezing rain. And that airplane was doomed because it didn't have licensed dispatcher. That pilot knew nothing in the flight deck, had no clue. Poor guy was lost, right? Remember that? Captain, what was the captain's name? Norwood. Captain Norwood. It wasn't Mike Norwood. Sorry. Thunderstorms. Surface-based layers. Meteorological services available to pilots. So weather reports, okay, and forecasts. So dispatchers and airport operators are, well, we're talking about dispatch, is you gotta know where to find reports and how to read reports, okay? So that's some of the weather. That's, like I said, you gotta be somewhat of a meteorologist. Another good one is in dispatch is navigation. So navigation terms, maps and charts. So many of my students have a tough time with Canadian geography. So you gotta know, you gotta be good in geography. You gotta know where different parts of the world is, continents, latitudes, longitudes, right? Because you're flight planning, if you're flight planning at an international carrier, you have to know exactly where, you know, what countries are where, okay? Time zones and regulations, multiple time zones in the world. You obviously got to know what Zulu time is, or Universal Time Coordinator, and do the math with the from local to Zulu times. Everybody knows what Zulu time is, right? No? Oh, you don't know what Zulu? That's aviation time. So Universal Time Coordinated. We have the Prime Meridian, which is somewhere in Greenwich, England. Everybody knows where Greenwich, England is. It's near London. Greenwich, England. So, when it's Zulu time, or UTC, some people call it, Universal Time Coordinated. So when it's 1300 Zulu in London, England, okay, it's 1300 local. So this is where it starts, 1300 local. So when you go west this way, you minus. Oh, you do know Zulu.
I just didn't know it was called Zulu.
Yeah, Zulu. Zulu or UTC. So what time is it Zulu in Toronto right now? Zulu's another term for Universal Time Coordinator. We're -4 right now, -5 once the clock changes very soon. Okay. Where did you get that term from? Good question. Good question. All right. Any questions on the flight dispatch side? No? A little video for you.
This is the 27th floor of the Willis Tower in downtown Chicago, and that's where our network operations center exists. It makes up the entire floor. And it's essentially mission control for United Airlines. So we operate about 5,300 flights a day when we include our United Express carriers. And every single one of those flights is monitored from this floor. And the mainline flights, United Airlines has about 1,800 flights a day. And for those flights, we actually create the flight plans. So that says things like what altitude are you going to fly at, what's the path from A to B that you're going to fly, how much fuel do you need on the airplane, the complete plan. On the floor, we've got about 375 workstations. So that's generally how many people are on duty at a given time. And there is a United Airlines flight in the air all the time. And so this facility is open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and it's staffed all 3 shifts.
This whole floor has virtualized workstations. So the applications, for the most part, do not reside on the workstation. They reside in a server environment within our data centers, which are not within this building. So we've taken that approach, we've headed down that path, which really separates the applications and the users from the data source.
First step on this floor is about 5 days in advance of the departure. Our aircraft routers become aware and assign a particular airplane to the specific flight. Then as you get a little bit closer to departure, say about 4 hours prior, that's when the dispatcher starts playing a role, and he starts building the plan for the specific flight. And then that's handed off to the captain of the flight out at the airport. The captain reviews the flight plan, signs off on it, boards the aircraft. The flight attendants board the aircraft, and they take off. And when the flight is in the air, the dispatchers are still monitoring it in the air and alerting the pilots to anything that may be applicable. There may be turbulence on the flight, on the route, and they will give the pilots a heads up for that. And they follow it all the way to the destination.
Tracy mentioned the flight plan manager system, which is a Sabre product that we use to do all our flight planning. And then on addition to that, we have a front end that we've built, which is called Dispatch View, that really customizes for our employees, which is really kind of the approach we've taken here, is the data on the back end is used commonly across all the departments, but then we'll customize a front end for that particular department. So they all have looking at the same information, but looking at it in such a way that's effective for them, such as IM tracking is a perfect example of that.
So what time is the preset? Is it going to be rain first?
Yeah, about 9 o'clock. We're going to have rain here, and quickly change to snow at about 10 o'clock, I think.
Okay.
Probably start accumulating more around midnight or so.
The network guy is responsible.
We're still thinking 4 inches.
Okay, decisions.
Well, and within this facility itself, of course, we have redundancy as it relates to power sources and those types of things. We actually have 2 data centers, and then which has redundancy. Plus, we also have redundancy within the applications themselves. They're always put on a cluster environment so that we have the appropriate backup for the application itself.
But when an outage does occur, first of all, it depends which system we're talking about, and different system outages have different impact on the actual operation. But if it's one where we can't depart without that system, then alerts go out. I immediately get emails. We convene a small group to determine what the right course of action is. Sometimes we'll coordinate with the FAA to put initiatives in place such that drones can't depart or arrive at certain locations, and we slow down the operation until, and simultaneously, our entire information technology group stands up immediately a bridge line where we get visibility into the issue, how it's being worked, and what the prognosis is, and how quickly it's going to be resolved. You know, I think it's constantly a challenge in an organization this big to make sure that the right people have the right information so that we make the right decision in a quick time. And it's this floor that really impacts the customer. How can we protect flights so that we get the most people from point A to point B? Because that's what we're here to do in the safest manner possible.
So that's on top of the Sears Tower. Used to be called the Sears Tower, now the Willis Tower. So they do 1,800 flights a day. Yeah, United. No, these you don't use very much. I use the document, I used this document once for flight planning. You gotta use it for flight planning because we got maps, so I thought I'd use it. I'm just trying to get where you make it bigger here. That's how I got taught. So this is what I do today, my full-time job. I'm the ADM, okay, the airport duty manager. So I'm the CEO on shift. I'm responsible for all operations at Toronto Pearson, okay? Emergency, if an airplane crashes, I'm the EOC director. I'm the guy. I'm the emergency response coordinator.
Who's in control right now?
I'm a shift guy. So there's guys on shift. Remember at the beginning I said I work 5 days on, 5 days off? So I'll be on shift next week, next Monday night. I'm on shift. So there's 6 of us, okay? So we rotate 12 hours. We're always there, obviously. So internally, this is what GTA is set up on the day of. We have MOs, or managers of operations. So we have managers of operations for Terminal 1. We have a manager of operations for Terminal 3. We have a manager of operations for the air side, and I'll show you the air side. That's the runways, the taxiways, and the aprons. And then we have a manager operations for our baggage system. We move 50,000 pieces of luggage a day, outbound and inbound at Pearson. Okay, think about it, 50,000 pieces a day. All right, that's a lot of luggage. And when a system breaks down, we have 5 kilometers of baggage belt. All right, 5 kilometers of baggage belt. So the airport duty, all these people report to the airport duty manager. This is obviously a day of org chart, okay, a daily operations org chart. I have a shift manager in the integrated operations control system. That's what an IOCC means. Very similar to a system operations control center at an airline or a network operations control center. Some people call it, you'll hear the terminology SOC or NOC or IOC or IOCC. So GTA has an IOCC. As well, I have this SRC is my security person. So I'm in charge of all security operations at the airport. So if a bad guy tries to get in the airport, I'm gonna know, okay? And we're gonna have to solve it, all right? There's bad guys at the airport all the time. The public doesn't know about it, but we know about it. No fly list people. Bad people that have criminal records that we know are traveling, that sort of stuff, that are not on the no-fly. So we watch them like a hawk. I don't watch them, our security people watch. We have 3,000 cameras that the GTAA owns and operates, so we watch these people. That's not including CATSA. Anybody know what CATSA is? Okay, they do the passenger screening and the baggage screening in the bottom, right? US CBP, everybody knows US Customs, is that Toronto Airport? They have their own cameras. CBSA, Canada Border Services, has their own cameras. Okay, we have 3,000 that we maintain. Okay? As well, on the day of, I have a platoon chief. I have 3 fire halls I'm responsible for. 3 fire halls. Okay? It's like a little city, the airport. We have 40,000 people that work at Pearson that have one of these. Called the RAID, right? Restricted Area Identity Card. You need lots of, to get one of these days is valuable, okay? Because you go through a huge security clearance, okay? Especially for international students trying to work in Canada, it's very, very difficult to get some things. So you have to make sure you have all the lines filled out and where your mom and dad lived and so forth. So my parents were Italian, so I had to go to the roots of India. So it was hard for me too sometimes to get those addresses and that sort of stuff. So that's what, it's not hard for you to get it just takes a lot longer. So I have a platoon chief, also known as a PC, reporting to me, okay? So I have external customers as well. So all those customers are external. They can make my day a nightmare, okay? So CATSA, so Canadian Air Transportation, Canadian Air Transport Security Agency, right? CATSA. So they run the passenger service or passenger screening for 89 airports around Canada. Okay, 89 airports. So if I'm an airport trying to get CATSA, it's hard to get CATSA because the funding is hard. Okay. So when these guys have employee issues, what do you think happens to my job? People don't show up, people call in sick. What happens to my job to do? I don't have passengers being screened. What do you think happens outside? The lineups are tremendous. I make the news. Okay, my social media guy's standing right beside me because he's tweeting and updating Facebook on our lines. Okay? Because they all go back to the airport. Toronto Pearson sucks, right? But it's Katz's problem. Look at all these agencies I'm control of. Okay? They make my day. Never mind these guys. Internal, external. US CBP is another one. All right? What's been happening in the United States these days? Security. These guys are very, very timid of being shot because so they walk around in plain clothes, that sort of thing. I have 100 officers on shift at any given time. Okay? US CBP guards. Okay? They want to close their computers, they close it. Washington closes it. Okay? All their kiosks and then it goes paperless. It goes paper trail, so it takes a long time. So what happens to my lineups? They increase. People tweet Pearson sucks. Right? Police. I have 3 police stations at Pearson. One main on Network Drive at the button of 33 right, and then we have 2 sub offices in the terminals. Okay? There's 40 police officers on shift during the day. They're Peel Regional Police that the GTAA contracts out for the policing at the airport. We also have RCMP. Okay? They're in plain clothes usually. They're more of a national level. Because Pearson is such a national airport, if Pearson breaks down, if there's an issue at Pearson, it affects Canada, right? Because we have 650 departures, 650 arrivals. 140,000 people a day go through Pearson, passengers. We have another 120,000 meters and greeters. Okay? That's the mom and pa's coming and saying goodbye. Okay? So policing's big. CBSA, Canada Border Services, they're external agency to us. Okay? Everybody has their policies and laws that they have to follow, and it affects me, right? It affects my job. Airlines, of course. Airlines, my biggest customer. Our vision statement is to be the best airport in the world. Okay? To be the best airport in the world. That's our vision statement. So all these people have to be operating flawlessly for me to be the best airport in the world. Okay? We do 41 million people a year. 41 million passengers a year. Okay? You know what the largest airport in the world is doing? Atlanta does 101. Okay? 101 million. Double plus. Atlanta. Now at Pearson, Atlanta's got mostly domestic. Pearson's #2 in international traffic next to JFK in North America. Okay? Pearson is getting on the world stage. All right? Because we have 3 sectors that we do. Pearson is a very complex operation. Speaking about, we have international flights, we have transborder flights, we have domestic flights. 3 sectors. Usually airports got 1 sector. Some maybe have 2. We have 3. We have these U.S. pre-cleared flights. Okay? Why we have U.S. CBP? First of all, the U.S. keeps their bad guys in Canada, and secondly, we could make any nonstop to the States because they're clear customs in Toronto. So we can do any nonstop. We're doing nonstop to Ville, Colorado, right? We want to be a mega hub. Okay? So a mega hub is where you have. That's why Atlanta's got 101 million people, because they have Delta, right? Delta all goes in there. Air Canada is all coming into Pearson. That's why our numbers are increasing. It's becoming a mega hub for Air Canada. Air Canada flies all their small planes in, and then the big planes go up. Okay, that's what they're doing. Kind of like a hub and spoke system. The fuelers play a big part in airport operations. If we don't have fuel in the airplanes, or when it's -30 and the fuel lines are freezing, we have to do something, right? Because the airplanes aren't going to move fast enough. right? So it makes my job interesting. Ground handlers, so we have a bunch of ground handlers at the airport, Menzies, Swissport, that's a lot of people start off their careers checking in. Menzies, Swissport, big agents, big ground handlers that basically represent an airline when you arrive at Toronto on the airplane arrives. So we'll do the ground handling and the passenger checking. And there's ATS as well. Retailers. Retailers are huge at airports now. Airports are becoming shopping malls. Why? Because it's going to become the second most generated revenue at airports. First is aeronautical revenue, takeoff and landings. Okay? Anybody know how much Pearson makes in takeoff and landings? 600 million. Okay? No, a year. 600 million a year is our aeronautical revenue. So that's airplanes coming on the pavement. There's a guy at the end of the runway with the cash register. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Okay? So right now, number 2 revenue at Pearson is parking. We make 120 million a year in parking. Okay? Parking's expensive. Airports make a lot of money in parking. So that's how we make revenue. Because in 1994, the Canadian government privatized airports. Okay? It says here, create all these corporations, and here you go. Here's the airports. Not knowing that they had to pay rent. Okay? The government wanted rent back. So we pay $120 million a year to Justin Trudeau. Okay? A year, just to be there. So we have to make money. That's our rent, $120 million for the land. And I'll show you the land in a second. Okay? I mean, I like Justin Trudeau, he's a nice guy. So before that was Brian Mulroney was in power when that happened. Okay? So they says, here's these economic gems, they're revenue generators, here you go. Not knowing, you have to upgrade these places. You know how much, we have more pavement than Toronto. If you drive Toronto to Ottawa, Pearson's got more pavement. Okay? That's how much pavement we have. So you gotta take care of that stuff. You know what happens in the winter? Holes. Right? Okay? So we got more pavement. We have 10 plumbers, 10 electricians, 10 millwrights on staff 24/7. And then we have 50 airfield specialists. So if there's something that has to happen on demand, they'll go up there and fix it, shut down the runway and fix it. They'll plow snow in the winter. They'll do a runway, 11,000 foot runway in 12 minutes. Okay? Because we can't have runway snow covered because it affects that 600 million, right? Not only money, airlines need to get in. Air Canada needs to make money. Air Canada's been having record profits. Same with WestJet. Okay? 12 minutes for a run. You should see these things. They're called bonuses. They have a plow in the front, a sweeper in the middle, and a hair dryer in the back. It comes out clean. They're $1 million each. There's 11 of them that go down the runway in 12 minutes. Got a picture to show you. It's called the bonus. Pretty interesting. And it's a very good career. Very good career, airfield. They all go at once. It's very interesting to see. Okay, then we have NAV Canada. Oh, I talked about retailers. So we have a whole bunch of restaurants. We have Burberry, Rolex, all that stuff. There's a lot of high rollers now fly, and they want to buy that stuff. Vancouver's opened up a shopping mall right beside their airport. So passengers to kill time to go shop. Right? Why not? NAV Canada, obviously, they run the air traffic control and provide weather for Canada. And then stakeholders, smaller stakeholders. We have a bunch of smaller stakeholders. Some people I don't even know. Okay? And then we have the EOC, ECC. So the EOC is our Emergency Operations Center. So if there's an airplane incident or accident at Pearson, this is lit up, this EOC. It's lit up with a bunch of internal and external stakeholders. Depending on the event, if we have a guy that comes in the building and starts shooting people, we have an EOC catered to that. Obviously, it's a bunch of policing. Okay? It's going to basically the airport's going to shut down for at least 2 days, right? Because that's the new thing going on. We have a code for, we call it an active assailant, right? Because people want to come in lately and shoot people at airports or bomb airports. Right, so or if there's an airplane crash, this gets lit up. We also have what's called the ECC. So the ECC is an event coordination center. So if we have a snowstorm going on, we invite stakeholders to come into our ECC so we can give them information so they can go back to their company and tell them what to do. And we have instantaneous information, okay? When we have that ECC. Because if we have a whole bunch of stakeholders in one room, we can make decisions very quickly versus phone calling or texting or emailing, okay? That's why we open up what's called the Event Coordination Center. We also have social media there as well, right? Because they're a prime player these days. So that's the airport on a daily, that's Pearson how it's set up, okay? So I have this map to hand out. So I just pass it around. What's coming around now is the airside map, okay? This is our 4,400 acres of Pearson Airport that where the runways and taxiways are. Cheers with you. So we have 6 runways. The runways are in red. The taxiways are in blue. 7,000 light bulbs on the airfield. Can you imagine changing all those? 7,000. You ever seen runway lights when the weather's bad? They gloom. They gloom. Everybody have one? So if we start here, these are the terminals. We have Terminal 1 here. So we have 150 gates, okay, those bridges that airplanes, when they arrive, the bridge goes on. We have 157 of those around the terminal buildings. So Terminal 1, Terminal 3, and then actually this is our security line. You can see the fence line here. So we have a 12-foot fence all around the 4,400 acres. Okay?
Sorry, how many acres?
4,400.
Wow.
So there's a lot of grass to cut. There's a lot of grass in the. So what happens with all the grass? We have the largest wildlife center for airports. Okay, we have 50 hawks and 1 falcon, 1 bald falcon, because basically birds like to hang around at airports. And what happens to birds and airplanes? They don't mix, okay? So birds like to hang around the grass because there's worms in the grass, right? That's why birds hang around airports. So our wildlife program manages that. So we have guys 24/7 all over the field, manages that, okay? And we also have a creek, the Etobicoke Creek that flows from the north side to the south side under the 401 where Air France crashed. We have a creek where the falcon flies every day because there's all kinds of rodents that we have coyotes, we have deers. We don't want them running in the airplanes, so they're managed. Okay. So these are the terminal buildings. This is our one of the cargo areas. The Air Canada hangars. Our east-west runways are used the most because that's the way the winds flow, right? Because airplanes like to land and take off into the wind, right? So we use east-west, so the 05 or 24s, 24 left, or you'll see on your map the 6s, okay, the opposite end. So those are basically all compass headings, that's all that is. That's how the runways get named. It's the magnetic compass, okay? That's why you see 24. So if you go 240 degrees, you're gonna, near Toronto Pearson, you're gonna be landing at 24 right or 24 left, depending what ATC tells you. All right? So going back to the purple area, this is all GTAA dispatches the airplanes out of this area. So we have an apron advisor. We have our own control tower, which is this blue dot here. So it manages, it tells the airplanes to push back and taxi. Once they reach the blue, it's transferred to NAV Canada, air traffic controllers. So the air traffic controllers will get on and tell the airplane where to go. The apron advisory guys will transfer to NAV Canada ground control. And when they're de-icing, so the central de-icing is here, so all the airplanes have to be de-iced, right? Because we know from Dryden that the critical wing lock came into play, and we have to de-ice airplanes, right? We can't go with any contamination on the way. So we have the world's largest de-icing facility. We have 6 bays, okay? Everyone comes to Pearson to learn the de-ice, okay? In Southern Ontario gets the most ice. From Cleveland to Toronto, we get the most ice accretion out of any place in the world, okay? So Pearson's a world leader at de-icing. A lot of pilots complain about de-icing lineups, but you know what? We're the world's best. And when they start complaining, we tell them we're the world's best. And when pilots that don't fly in and out of Toronto on a regular basis, we get kudos all over the world, how well your de-icing runs. Okay, that's just the rules, right? So we're proud at Pearson for our de-icing facility, okay? We have our cargo area. We have 3 cargo areas in the middle of the field, and then we have our in-flight terminal, which is here, our infield terminal. That's where all the Syrians arrived when Justin Trudeau brought in 35,000 Syrians. We all processed them through this IFT place because there's a road that can go out of here in the middle of the airport, the public can access. So we processed them all there, kept them away from the public and all the cameras and glory, right? So again, we have 6 runways, mostly on a east-west configuration. When we're running an east-west configuration, we can do 60 airplane landings an hour. Okay? When we're on an east-west configuration. When we're on a north-south configuration, we can do 40 airplanes an hour. And the reason why is because there's one less pavement, and there's not a lot of navigation aids over Lake Ontario. Okay? The separation from NAV Canada has to be greater from the airplane. So actually, the reduction of flights goes from 60 to 40. So what happens is that there's a delay program that comes into effect. So we issue a ground delay program to the airlines. So the dispatchers have to manage that through an airline perspective. Okay? A delay program. Sometimes there's a ground stop. If there's an airplane that breaks down, that their brake sees, like right here, it shuts down this runway for an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever, the capacity shrinks, right? Because you can't do that 60. So Air Canada starts complaining, especially if it's not their airplane, or WestJet starts complaining if it's not their airplane. And it's, you know, I would be complaining if I was on the airplane side, the airline side as well.
Is it 60 flights, like 60 takeoff flights?
60 landings, there's no limits on departures. We can depart over 75 airplanes, 60 landings. So it all has to flow because all these gates are occupied, so there's airplanes pushing back, right? So when these airplanes arrive, they need a place to go. So I told you last year that the fueling lines froze, right, when we were -30. So airplanes can't leave because they don't have enough fuel. So what happens then is that you have to do a reduction in your capacity as well. Okay? In New York, we have over 200 flights to the New York area a day from Toronto, WestJet, Air Canada, American, Delta, those guys, so 200 flights. So when New York's impacted with weather, Pearson's getting impacted with flow rates, with plane flow rates. Okay, we talk to the New York Port Authority all the time on conference calls, as well as the FAA, as well as NAV Canada and Air Canada, to make sure everybody's flowing correctly, so we can maintain 60 airplane landings an hour. If not, we'll have to do a reduction. All right? I usually get on the conference call and we tell the airline that we're doing a reduction due to whatever is the case. Okay? We have 3 fire halls. We have one here, which is on the south end. It's actually public access, but then it goes airside. We have our GTA admin building, so just trying to reference if anybody knows Pearson at all. We have the 427, and we have our own, we take care of the 409 right up to the 427. So any snow clearing, road maintenance, we take care of that. Okay, we have our own link train as well that goes from Terminal 1, Terminal 3, and into one of the parking garages. So we make sure that's running smoothly, because 21,000 people ride that a day. So we gotta make sure that thing's up and running. If not, we'll have to deploy buses if it breaks down. Okay? So, like I said, we have enough, Pearson's got enough pavement out here, because these are all taxiways, right? The blue, these are all high-speed taxiways. Okay, these yellow ones. So when I'm arriving on 33 right, if I'm landing, I'm gonna be exiting Bravo 2 potentially, or Bravo 4. Those are high-speed taxiways, okay? And y'all know the phonetic alphabet, Delta, Charlie. So that's taxiway Delta, that's taxiway Charlie. These are taxiway Delta Victor, taxiway Delta Tango, and so forth. This is where the old Terminal 2 used to be. So there's a new finger going on in 3 years that's gonna be here, so there's gonna be another finger here, or they call it a pier. All right, you can see the legend there, it all dictates what each thing is. Any questions? Okay.
Well, I actually had a question.
Sure.
You said that there was 6 runways, right?
Yeah,
I only see 5 here.
5 runways.
Oh, I thought you had said 6.
Did I say 6?
Yeah.
5 pavement runways. 5 pavement runways.
Oh, okay.
Some people calculate a runway as this end, and then another one at that end. It's just one piece of paper.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I got some lanyards here, but I don't have enough for everybody, unfortunately. You have to ask some questions. So how many takeoff and landings are at Pearson a day?
60 an hour. 60 an hour.
Per day.
650.
650 each. 650 departures,
And
650 landings. What's the departure, what's the airplane arrival rate per hour? We're on an east-west configuration.
60 east-west.
How about a north-south operation?
40.
Who's responsible for air traffic control in Canada? NAV Canada. No CATS is in charge of passenger board screening. Huh? The CATS is in charge, no, I asked who's in charge of air traffic control. Yeah, not Canada. How many pieces of baggage go through Pearson a day?
You want to say good?
55. And how much pavement is there? How much pavement in Toronto is there? From Toronto to what city? Huh? That's all I have. Any other questions? Yeah.
What would you say are like important personality traits that you should have, like,
In my position,
or
I gotta be calm.
how about
Very calm, not antsy, prioritize, documents, critical thinking, decision maker. You gotta make a decision. You can't him and ha. Okay, you gotta make a decision, because time is gonna affect a lot of, obviously, money, right?
Out of all of the jobs you had, would you say you like this one best or?
They're different. In the airlines, I got to travel. I liked what I did, but the time had come after I had at Orange. I was having a career, and then, you know, after 2 bankruptcies in an airline, I wanted to try the airport authority. Airport authority hire they're after ex-flight dispatchers because they know weather very good. Obviously, weather affects, like I said, airport operations as well as airline operations. So you're very good at that, and you know flow rates already. The thing that you need to know at airports is passenger flow, right? Because passengers, I told you the vision statement of Pearson is the best airport in the world, but our everyday passion is passengers. Okay? Passengers are our passion. That's the goal every day. Any other questions? No questions?
What would you say some of the challenges that you have?
Challenges? Well, I told you, the biggest challenges are labor disruption and security events, because you don't know, right? Like you can talk to as many security agencies with intel and stuff like that. Because we talk to CSIS, we talk to Department of Homeland Security all the time. Our security guys do, I know, right? And they let me know intel that's happening. So potential. Like once I'll tell you a challenging situation. I showed up at work. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. And my security, my passenger service supervisor comes to me, shows me an email. They have bombs in every garbage can in your airport. Wow. What do you do? What do you do? Call the bomb squad? Don't forget, I just told you the economic, if Pearson shuts down, it affects our economy. It was a hoax. So you gotta think, because you're security trained, you gotta look at things. It was one of those auto dialer emails, okay? And, wish I was a movie. It could happen potentially, it could happen, right? You gotta do a threat and risk assessment, right? You guys all know what a threat and risk assessment is, and see what the severity is. If it's a low, medium, or high, okay? And usually it's a low, you start to scale it down. Any other questions this side of the room? Any questions? No? All right. Yeah, question. What's your typical day? So a typical day, I usually start at 6 o'clock in the morning, have coffee, go brief with the outgoing airport duty manager, and brief on basically planning any of the plans that are going on, any communications that are out that need to be looked at, weather, obviously, staffing not only internally but externally, because we get the agencies to report staffing, global events, what's happening on the security level. Are we at a high security response? Are we at a low security response? That sort of stuff. And just basically monitor. I mean, I have staff to monitor, but I monitor as well. I work 12 hours, there's no set breaks, so I'll eat when I can.
How often do you deal with like flight attendants? I know most of us want to do that, like during the day? Like they
Flight attendants, I see them all the time. Usually there are people coming through with one of these that don't like to go through security. Basically, I wouldn't call them they don't know the consequences if, when they go through security and they say, hey, I'm a flight attendant, I do this every day, leave me alone. Right? Those TAXA agents have the right to, they have the order, it's a post order the government is giving. So if that flight attendant gives a attitude and walks through, we'll nail him or her, they'll get the rate taken. They'll miss their flight and they'll have to go see the security people. So never doubt security always. When they question you, they're doing their job. They're keeping bad people out. Usually bad people don't come through the front door, they come through the back door, but some people have come through the front door. Any other questions?
How far does your rate get you? Like what color is that?
This goes, so purple you can go air side or ground side, but it's what's on the card, how much access you got. So I have access to every door. So we have 52 buildings with Pearson, I can get in any one of them, right? And air side access keys. So this card, but I have a code associated with this card. But we limit access, whatever your job function is.
Like
Yeah,
a Tim
so
Hortons employee has to.
they won't be able to go.
Yeah, I know.
They'll have a blue one.
Yeah.
A flight attendant will have an air crew one, so it'll be a white one. So they can gain access to the air side, they can gain access everywhere, not just indoors and stuff like that, okay? Because they won't have codes. Any other questions?
What is the training required to be instructed in airlines emergency?
Training, usually, you have to be head of flight dispatch. You have to know, fire, police, ambulance. So, and you obviously gotta be calm, cool, and collected. Right, because you don't want a nervous person in charge. The one thing about emergency response programs that fail at airlines is, if you don't spool it up quickly, they can bankrupt the airline. Okay? No, it can bankrupt the airline very soon. So you gotta set up a 1-800 number for families and friends right away, because the phones ring off the hook. Even employees that work at the airline, because you know people on that airplane that potentially had this incident, right? So you get multiple calls. So you gotta set up a 1-800 number right away, and you gotta tell people what's going on. You gotta communicate. If you don't communicate, you're finished. Right, we communicate very well by text and that, but you don't know if the message has got through. You gotta make sure read and receive, because text goes into cyberspace, so you gotta make a phone call. You gotta make sure the person knows, what the message is, right? And words matter. If you're writing with open-ended questions in emergency response scenarios, not a good thing. You gotta really know your English, or pass it on to your social media journalist people. That's what I do. When I gotta send a message, I usually send it to my social media people, because they're trained in journalism. So they know how to read and write in the keywords. And they'll make a sentence and chop it in half with keywords. And now I've been an expert at that, so I'm a good English major now. Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
That's a trick. Well, let's give thanks, John, for coming. Really, I learned a lot. I worked the last set, so I don't know half of what your talk was, so it was very informative to me. So thank you very much on behalf of the flight services. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for taking the time. Thank you for coming. Thank you especially to those of you who came outside of your class time. If this isn't your normal class time, you don't need to come to class later in the week. Even if you're in my class or you're in Savannah's class, this is your class for the week. Your sign will be posted. Make sure, if you haven't signed in yet, sign in on the papers that are on that back desk. And everyone have a great week. Thanks, guys. Yeah. See you soon.
I feel invaded in the area.
So it's like,
Yeah, I don't want to give them a lot of stuff.
yeah.